Welcome today. I'm Jo Julie Brown, for people who don't know me, and I help professionals who are feeling under a bit of pressure that's often associated with their work to lessen that and live a more heartful life. And today I'm joined by Susie Ball, who teaches yoga and mindfulness in London, one of the most diverse, amazing, wonderful cities in the world. And Susie is somebody I met when we were doing our mindfulness training together. It's quite a rigorous program of training in mindfulness. And about a year ago, we were involved in, we started to do an online mindfulness practice, gratitude practice together. And I think it's fair to say that we both found that to be fairly transformative. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Susie today, and hopefully we can share some of that experience. And if anybody's thinking about starting or maintaining or sustaining or really getting hold of a mindfulness practice that involves gratitude, or just a gratitude practice on its own, and see where that leads, then we hope that some things we might say might be encouraging, at the very least. So, Susie, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I wondered if you might be able to say a little bit to start with about your own mindfulness and gratitude journey.
Sure. I first came to mindfulness. I was part of a research project looking at teaching yoga teachers mindfulness. That was my first introduction, and I got pretty curious about it after 8 weeks, and just have continued from there, really, taking further training to teach others, and just continuing my own mindfulness practice at home and on retreats. Yeah, and the gratitude has been certainly woven into that.
So can you say a bit about how it was woven in? Was it something that you were encouraged especially to include, or was it something that grew out of the mindfulness practice? How's it worked for you?
At first it was introduced on the course, and we had formal logs that we were encouraged to fill out. So at the end of each day, you would write down something that you have noticed you're grateful for that day, or maybe there was many things, and also to notice all the sensations and emotions and thoughts that were attached to it. So I think in that way it was starting to connect very much with the mindfulness. At first it didn't feel so natural, I have to admit. At first I was more making just a choice to be grateful. I didn't necessarily have the feelings of gratitude, but I found the more that I continued to practice, the more the feelings came, and I was starting to notice lots of little things in my life that I would normally take for granted throughout the day, just those small moments of just feeling grateful. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I like your point about it needing to be something that you consciously practiced, because sometimes we feel that, you know, these things should come naturally, and that's not the case for you. Is it still that way for you, or how's it go for you now?
Well, I think it differs, it's different day to day and different moments. I found the more I practice mindfulness, the more gratitude is just naturally flowing, which leads, of course, to more gratitude. But of course, we're all human, and there's days where you're not feeling so grateful, and sometimes I might, consciously invite it. I might kind of challenge myself to notice what there is that I might be grateful for, and other times, depending on what's going on, it might be more skillful not to do that. It might be better just to sense into what is here, particularly if it's like strong emotions. That might be better to just rest with them for a while.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So it's as if there's you're not bringing an expectation to it that you should feel grateful or you should feel mindful or any of those things. It's just, well, what's it like now, and what's this experience of being human like now? Is that the case?
Yeah, I think you put that really well. I think it's so easy with when we first hear about practices to sometimes be quite rigid with it, or like use it as a stick to beat ourselves with, rather than having a little bit of kindness, about it, just accepting the fact that um, things are the way they are in that particular moment. That way, I think it just uh, invites that spaciousness that we're all really seeking. Mm.
So that sounds like it has changed your experience of you and of life and so on. I wondered if you could say a bit more about what that's like day to day for you, and if you've seen that in other people as well.
Yeah. On a day-to-day basis, I think one of the first things that surprised me when I was taking gratitude practice was those experiences that normally I might label as kind of a bad experience. I started to see that there are actually things in that situation or that moment that I might be grateful for. So it made me pay attention a little bit more. So things like when it's raining, and in the UK, many of us might, say, "Oh, it's bad weather," but actually, I was looking at my early gratitude logs, and things that I was picking out was, oh, I've got a coat and boots to keep me dry, or the plants in the garden are getting watered, and so in that way, yeah, there's that subtle shift from seeing things through a particular lens of just with a kind of negative taint, perhaps, to seeing things with a bit more detail and seeing the goodness actually in a situation. Um, and another thing, I had my computer broke, and a classic tech hitch that often sends us into a spin. And in my gratitude log, I'd said that I was really grateful because I got somebody had come and helped me, and I got it fixed quite quickly. So that's the sort of thing that I've noticed.
That's really interesting, because there's this it touches for me on some of the things that people, some of the criticisms of a gratitude practice. So gratitude seems to be quite prevalent, and it's also seen sometimes to be quite glib. It's just at the surface level, or people who practice gratitude are kidding themselves about reality. And what you said there is actually seems like it's more real, so it's more nuanced. There's more opportunities for it to exploring a feeling rather than just being either this or that. It's actually, each experience is on some sort of continuum, and I can see how, that's certainly my experience as well, that those quite straightforward examples you've given there of everyday things can be practice ground in a way, preparation for even more serious things that we face, the more difficult challenges that we all inevitably face. Would you say that's your experience as well, or is it something different?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost as if you're building a muscle for gratitude. So if you're turning towards it in small ways in your life, you're building a habit, and this time it's actually a good habit to have, of gratitude. So you're feeding that gratitude, and then when you do have difficult situations that might feel a little bit harder to navigate, sometimes you find just there's a natural arising of gratitude that can surprise you.
Nice, that's a nice surprise to have.
Yeah.
Especially so you're saying then that there's we're not saying that mindfulness or gratitude should just be practiced for their own sake. This really is kind of a proving ground for us for living a healthier and in some ways happier life, a more real life in some ways. So I wonder if you might be able to say a little bit about some of the the formal practices in a way that you've, if we can call them that, that you've used or you recommend for other people to try this out, or to keep a practice going, or to deepen a practice, what would you say?
Hmm. As I mentioned earlier, I think gratitude log, just simply writing in your journal, can be really helpful, and particularly bringing it to light with just noticing the emotions and the sensations and the thoughts can be really helpful to start building that habit. Um, Other things are at the beginning and end of your day, then just noticing what you're grateful for right there. So it requires you just to pause. And actually, I think so much of gratitude is that little pause, that stepping back and just noticing. So when you're lying in bed in the morning, just taking a moment to notice what you could be grateful for right there. And then the same at the end of the day. Um, And another practice that I find helpful, particularly for those of you that have done a gratitude practice and then sometimes find that it's losing its fire a little bit, as it always does, where you go up and down, was to, at the end of the day, notice one thing that you've never been grateful for before, and that gets you thinking. At least in my case, it did. So yeah.
Wonderful.
To get started with.
Yeah, I know, and we've spoken before about those times during the day, for instance, as well, that are almost like prompts, like when you're reaching for the mobile phone almost automatically. I like the way you've described that. Could you explain that again a bit more for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Those small spaces in the day that we usually try and fill up by reaching for the phone or getting the free newspaper or whatever it might be, we often say we're bored. And actually just seeing that's an opportunity to practice in some way, and it's nice, we can be creative with it, just asking ourselves what we could be grateful for there. Yeah.
So those are really, really simple things, and one of the things I like about the way you're describing it is it's not onerous or difficult. Sometimes it's just a case of remembering and finding ways of remembering, and looking at your iPhone or your phone or whatever it is, or your computer, is just a really brilliant prompt. So I really like that. Is there anything else you want to say about gratitude for yourself or for the people that you've worked with or are working with? Any tips, suggestions, last minute thoughts?
I think just really to recap that, don't be put off if at first it feels a little bit forced. Just explore it. Really, what we're doing is experimenting, and you don't have to believe us. Really, just go and experiment in your life and just see what happens for you. In my experience, it may be the same for you, Jo, that the benefits of gratitude start happening quite quickly. So yeah, test it out and see for yourself.
Brilliant. That's such a nice encouragement. Thank you. So Susie, I've had the privilege of being taught mindful yoga by Susie, and it was, for me, a very profound experience. So if anybody who is in the London area and is in the market for being taught mindfulness or gratitude, learning yoga, practicing any of those things, where can people find more about you, Susie?
Thanks, Jo. Check out my website, Open House Yoga, and you'll find all the information there about my yoga classes and about my 8-week mindfulness courses.
Brilliant, thank you. So it's Open House Yoga. You're a .co.uk, is that right?
.co.uk, yeah.
Brilliant. So I am available at jogillibrand.com, and I'm sure Susie and I will both very much be open to hearing from you if you have any questions or comments about gratitude or mindfulness. We're open to being talking about our experiences and what might work for you. So please get in touch if that's appropriate for you. So just a final thank you, Susie, for taking the time to talk to me today about these experiences.
Thank you, Jo.
Okay. Thank you for listening, and we hope this has been some useful and some encouragement for your own gratitude, mindfulness, life journey. Bye for today.